All right. Hello, my name is Laila Conway, and I'm going to be presenting a presentation on seagrass research in the Gulf of Mexico and Tampa Bay. And specifically, we're doing this for a FWC grant. And then here's our agenda. Pretty much going to be talking about all these points throughout the presentation. So to give some background, seagrass communities are highly productive and provide many ecosystem services to us, especially down here in Florida. They do provide nursery habitat for many important shellfish and, of course, fish species. And then decline of seagrass has been contributed to the nutrient pollution, coastal development, and recreational factors such as boating and even jet skiing have been known to disturb seagrass beds and meadows. And research has been conducted on seagrass meadows and their health across Florida from the Atlantic and Gulf coasts as well as the Keys, about factors such as hurricanes or even understanding how restoration efforts might play a role and be effective for seagrass, and as well as even climate change has been considered as a factor of research and thought. Specifically, Tampa Bay in particular has experienced major losses of seagrass over the decades, primarily due to water quality and nutrient pollution. But the specific aims of this study would be to, one, observe the overall health of seagrass communities from chosen locations in the Gulf of Mexico and Tampa Bay. For locations in the Gulf, that would be Dunedin Causeway as well as Fred Howard Park seagrass. And then locations in Tampa Bay would be Courtney Campbell Causeway as well as Weeden Island and those seagrass meadows in there. Secondly, it would be to identify the factors that influence the health of the seagrass, whether those be positive or negative factors. And those factors can range from abiotic to biotic factors as well as anthropogenic and non-anthropogenic factors. The main goal of this study would basically to compare the factors that influence the Gulf Coast seagrass and the Tampa Bay seagrass and what exactly might be the major differences and things that need to be of note for the health of those seagrass communities. All right, in terms of method and design, seagrass surveys tend to rely on the use of a transect, which is basically a meter tape that is put in the water up to about 100 meters out, and that does include the beach. So if it was a low tide, we would basically take counts of the bare sand. If there is seagrass present, we do take note of it, and it's usually done in quadrants of 1 by 1 meter squares made of PVC pipe. Nekton community is the vertebrate organisms that live in the ecosystem, and taking note of that is the Nekton community data set. And then by using the drag seine net technique, that data set would be able to be compiled together to get species, number of individuals, and then of course data on their size as well. This is a seagrass quadrant. So this was taken in Dunedin Causeway. And then here is the data parameters that were found for this. So this quadrant was marked at 40 meters down the transect, 90% coverage, muddy sediment sand, then the types of seagrass and the condition. So the condition would go from 1, which is very healthy, to 4, which is not healthy or is dead. 2 is just a little bit under. And then, of course, sparse amounts is just a note of how much coverage is actually present. Then the depth of the water, about 6 inches. And then any other notes that were taken down, which was snails. There were snails present in this quadrant. And then this is the seine netting. So usually it requires 2 people to stand on either end of poles with floats and a lead line. And it is dragged against the current to collect fish in the bag, which is this. And then, of course, we're taking counts of how many species we're finding, the types of species, and then, of course, the size. And then that data is compiled into a data set. Okay, for proposed timeline and budget, the goal would be to conduct the study over the course of 2 years to gather a baseline of data and then taking the data about twice monthly over the course of each year. Teams of 6 would be preferred for each location, as you do need, like I said, 2 people to hold the poles for the seine net, 1 person to bag the seine net, and then people to measure and scribe down what the data is. And for seagrass surveys, you don't necessarily need 6 people. If in theory you could do 2 transects with 3 people on each team, otherwise you can do 1 transect and get data, or do the transect multiple times. There are other ways to kind of navigate that. And as in terms of the budget was designed per year, but with your dates in mind for your agency's grant proposal quarters were taken into account. So this is a budget. And then some of these items are what I would say are a one-time buy. So the SaneNet, the transect tape or the long tape would be things that are a one-time buy. But of course, there are ancillary funds in place. So in the event that something gets damaged, such as the SaneNet, or items are lost, such as the Secchi disc or rulers that we need to measure the fish, that would hopefully come out of ancillary funds, or we would have to, I would assume, put in the budget again to account for that damage and that loss of that equipment. And then of course here's the dates for your FWC quarters. So in theory we would start July 1st and make our whole year basically data collection and then end back at the first quarter, or we would end in June. The idea is just basically to go all the way around and collect data throughout that year. And then some closing statements. Climate change is a factor that will play a future role in the health of many ecosystems, such as seagrass. That means warmer weather, changing water quality, increased rate of storms, and the strength of those storms could also play factors in how those seagrass meadows manage. Because even though hurricanes are not something that they're new to, the change and influence of people on top of that natural disturbance could play a role in loss of a lot of our seagrass. And of course, knowing more will help us prepare in the future to understand the health of our seagrass system, specifically in the Gulf and the Tampa Bay area, and understanding what factors may play a role in their health, and knowing how we can improve our seagrass health or even just maintain the stability of those ecosystems is vitally important to keeping those ecosystem services that these seagrass meadows provide. They do provide carbon storage. They lock in sediment, and like I said, they do provide a large amount of the nursery space for many shellfish and fish that we rely on for fishing down here in Florida. And of course, it does help water quality as well. Seagrass meadows do help water quality, and that would affect tourism if our water quality were to continue to worsen. With that said, I thank you for your time and hope to be in your consideration for the grant proposal. Thank you.